Jeffreys Bay is one of the most famous surfing sites in the world. It owes its unique wave to a combination of swell, wind and reef. It was this wind that originally drew developers to the site to consider the possibility of establishing a wind farm. For me, the process began in the mid-1990s. I was fortunate enough to be part of the team which drafted South Africa's post-apartheid energy policy. We imagined a very different world. At the time, most electricity was produced by Eskom using coal as a primary energy source. And of course, coal has a lot of negative consequences for the planet. We imagined a different world. We imagined private power producers producing electricity from a range of different energy sources, including wind and solar. And we wrote that into the policy. Wind power has several benefits. It doesn't rely on scarce fossil fuels. It doesn't emit carbon dioxide, which is a damaging greenhouse gas. And it doesn't use any of our scarce water resources. Historically, the main disadvantage of renewables has been the high cost, but this has changed. Wind power is now the cheapest option for South Africa. There's a big shift globally going on, with about 20% of the world's electricity now coming from renewable sources.
Jeffreys Bay really is the ideal location for a wind farm for a lot of reasons. First of all, and the obvious one, it has an exceptional wind resource, really high wind speeds experienced in that area. Second of all, it's located right next to a national road that stretches the whole way from the project to the port, which allows for very simplified transportation of the components to site. The topography is very simple from a construction perspective. And last but not least, you've got the electrical infrastructure present on site, which meant that we were able to connect our project substation into those lines to export the power to the national grid. Siemens were the wind turbine provider. They were responsible for shipping of the components from their factories around the world to the port in Port Elizabeth and transporting the components to site. These are huge components, what we describe as abnormal loads. We transported over 480 abnormal loads. At peak, we had 8 travelling the road from the port to site, some 70 kilometres on a daily basis. The contractor responsible for the civil and electrical part of the works, Murray & Roberts Construction and Consolidated Power Projects. They were responsible for the roads, the foundations, the underground electrical cabling, construction of the project substation, and an operation and maintenance building. In terms of the construction of the foundation for the wind turbine, you start with digging a very large hole, 18 metres in diameter, 3.2 metres deep. Then we construct a steel rebar enforced cage totaling approximately 41 tonnes of steel. And then on top of that we pour 330 cubic metres of concrete. Embedded in the foundation is 160 hold-down bolts placed in a circular manner, and those protrude from the finished foundation, and that's where ultimately the lower base section of the wind turbine bolts and attaches to.
Once on site, the components are carefully placed, all ready for the erection process. The stage is set for the crucial phase of assembling these components into the wind turbine. At all times, the construction process proceeds according to international health and safety standards.
In Africa, we have an outstanding track record on health and safety. Health and safety is in our DNA. It's one of the values that we have in the company that we care for the most.
The first stage in the erection process for the turbines is to lift the first 2 tower pieces into position on top of the foundation base. The turbine provider and their subcontractors placed a huge emphasis on hiring and training local people to be involved in the process, both on the cranes and the installation front, with a view to them picking up the international experience and ensuring that that stays within the economy and within the industry in South Africa. After the two first pieces are lifted into position, the turbine blades, measuring 49 metres long, are all connected to the centre hub. Once the rotor is built on the ground, the next step is to lift the final piece of the tower into position. Followed by the nacelle, and the nacelle houses the generator and gearbox, weighs almost 83 tons. Once the nacelle is safely in place, they will proceed with the most complex of lifts, which is the rotor lift. Where two cranes work in unison to position this very large turbine rotor and blades at the top of the nacelle. In addition to that, you have two tagline teams which have rope extending up to the blade tips in order to keep the lifting operation under control until the rotor is finally secured in place.
So the Jeffreys Bay wind farm is monitored by a SCADA system on a 24-hour basis, and the SCADA system essentially provides some detailed information around weather data as well as turbine data. And the SCADA system provides the ability to determine the exact locations of turbines which may need attention. Once a turbine is completed, it begins to create power effortlessly and cleanly from the abundant wind on site. But just how exactly does it do this? The blades are designed like airplane wings, so as wind moves over them, uneven pressure is created and they begin to move. The bigger the blades, the more efficient the whole turbine is. The blades at Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm are 49 meters long. To maintain an even steady flow of wind, the nacelle on top of the turbine keeps it facing the wind. The blades are attached to the rotor hub that turns the shaft inside of the nacelle. Inside the nacelle, gears increase the rotation speed. The generator then converts rotational energy to electrical energy. The electricity is then transformed to be ready to be fed into the high voltage overhead lines that power the country. In total, the Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm produces 138 megawatts of clean energy, enough to power 100,000 average South African homes.
These renewable energy projects brings enormous benefit to South Africa. Normally, in the procurement in South Africa, about 10% of the valuation of a procurement is economic development. In this program, it's 30%. And so what we will bring to the local community is we bring funds to invest in social and economic programs, in enterprise programs. We set up a trust where we have very broad ownership in the local community, ownership in these projects. And we create a lot of job opportunities during construction and during the operation.
Early in the development process, we identified a local surf school that gives surfing opportunities to children from disadvantaged backgrounds.
The foundation's been going for the last 10 years. So the last 10 years we've been helping kids from the community, obviously underprivileged kids, to surf and make their lives better, not just surfing but educationally as well. The local community, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of kids on the street. Sometimes they're like up to 18, 20 people in one house, and the room that they live in is very small, and he has to share that room with his entire family. Through them, they inspire so many kids in the community.
Early in 2013, we sent the boys on a national tour to compete against the country's best. The results were remarkable.
Hi, I'm Jose Faulkner. I'm 15 years old. I've just been selected for the National South African team.
My name is Jose Faulkner. I'm 12 years old. And I'm the South African champion under 13 boys.
The funding that we receive from the Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm, it enables us to do the entire surfing circuit for the year. And when they do the circuit, they get certain points. Currently, Jose's points, he's second in the country, and because he gets to compete all over, that enabled him to be part of the South African national team for surfing today.
Investing in the local community has always been a priority for Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm. Now that we're operating, we invest a percentage of our revenues in improving maths and science education for the local community. During construction, the main priority was job creation.
As the mayor, what was important for us was the fact that work has been created. During peak production, there's 602 people who are working here, and that is about 45% from the local community. A lot of our people were unemployed around here. If you look how many bread has been put on the table, then it's over 1,000 mouths which has been filled. Second thing was the training and the skills being developed. These workers will be able to go and market themselves again to another wind farm where they can say, this is what we have been trained in, skills which have been developed at Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm.
This project has been a great success thanks to the partnerships that brought it together. Mainstream originally developed the project and successfully bid it along with investors Globeleq, Old Mutual, Tebe, Enzani, Usizo and the Community Trust. Financing was provided by Absa Capital and the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Siemens provided world-class technology in the form of the turbines. Murray & Roberts and Conco built the balance of plant. Various government agencies contributed, providing the permissions that enabled the plant to go ahead. Local stakeholders contributed, and I particularly would like to pay tribute to the workers who built the plant, brought it in on budget, on time, and without a single lost time injury in the course of construction. Thanks to everyone who contributed to make this such a great success.